Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to talk about filament welding, joining two pieces of filament together. And we're going to do it with this tool. So I purchased this filament welder kit on Amazon like a month ago, and it finally came in the other day. I primarily bought this to see how it would work, and to kind of get some use out of the ends of my rolls of filament. I plan on, kind of using the same brand and colors of filament in most of my projects, so hoping that I can just add the last, few meters from the previous spool onto the new spool, and not let that be waste. So anyway, I got this thing on Amazon. There were a couple other options on Amazon that were more like kind of plier or like heat press jaws units. They have their own internal heating element, and you kind of plug them into the wall, or they have a little battery or whatever. This seemed like a more simple solution, and also a solution that could be printed potentially and assembled. Basically what this is, I'll bring the camera over here, is a plastic ring with a PTFE liner tube that stretches between, and then a small spring around that liner tube. The liner tube is a 2mm inside diameter, 3mm outside diameter, and then the spring looks kind of like a ballpoint pen spring. And then these two little inserts kind of sandwich that spring PTFE tube and give you something to kind of hold on to while you're pressing the filament or pulling it out of this mold here. So it's a pretty simple design. You use a lighter to get the filament hot, and then basically you're just kind of pushing it together and then letting it cool and then pulling it back out through these tubes. So anyway, I had done a test on this already, and you can see this is a blue to white filament weld here, and it's pretty clean weld. It is slightly larger in diameter. You can feel it if you run your fingers over it. It's a slightly larger diameter than the filament from the factory, but I'm hoping that's not going to be enough of a problem in the printer itself. I think it should go through. So we're going to test that theory out after we weld some other filaments together here. So I've got a couple of PLAs. This is a just white generic PLA, and this is a black G-Tech PLA. Not my favorite, but have some at the end of a roll, so thought we'd give it a shot for this. Just going to go ahead and straight cut both of those ends. Looks like the white's already pretty well straight. And then we're going to insert that into this little mold here and try to get the joint to be about in the center. You can see the white and black kind of meet right about there in the middle of the spring-ish. And then take the lighter and we'll just hit this quickly on both sides. It doesn't take a lot of heat, which I learned the hard way the first time around. It's probably good. You can feel it. It's kind of squishy. You just kind of hold a little bit of pressure against those things there and let it cool. Now, the other thing I learned in my initial trials is you really got to let it cool. If the filament has any heat in it, it will just string out when you try to pull it back through the mold here. I'm just keeping equal pressure on both sides into one another. You can tell when I'm kind of pulling on both sides, you can see the deflection of that joint there, the kind of black and white transition phase between the two filaments. And as I'm pulling now, I'm getting a little less movement. Still not quite cool yet though. Okay, that's getting pretty close. Go ahead and put these guys around the spring and PTFE tube there. I don't know which one of these has less on it. Probably the white side, so we'll probably push. So you want to push this through from one side. Which is honestly kind of difficult. You can see now the joint is right at the end of the tube here, entering the disc. And I pulled it too hard. Joint didn't take. So let's try it again. There we go. This one actually set up fully. Again, you can see the joint there is pretty clear, defined. Again, the joint is slightly larger than the filament diameter, and that's, you know, the PTFE tube is 2 millimeter inside and your filament is 1.75, so that extra 0.25 is definitely a noticeable change in diameter. but it is joined here. It is very rigid at the joint, which I'm kind of worried about for, you know, wrapping or trying to put these guys together, but we'll see what happens here. I'm gonna go ahead and run this little test piece that I did earlier with this little bit of blue through the 3D printer and see what happens before I try to load this larger piece in. I'm just going to do a little test print of some filament clips for the spools, you know, the ones that go on the outer edge of the spool here. I've got a little batch file for that. I'm going to run that through the printer and we'll see how it does. Okay, so I realized that the file I was going to print requires about 1.2 meters of filament, and what I had here connected white to blue was nowhere near that. So I went ahead and fused the rest of that roll of black filament to the blue here at the end. This was our an initial connection that we made. I just kind of sliced that off here and went ahead and added the black to the blue. So now I've got plenty of filament. I'm going to run the white side into the printer first, and then that will allow the blue to hit somewhere middle of the print, and then the black will finish it off. So let's load this into the printer and see what happens. Okay, so we're here at the printer. I've got the filaments that we joined together here loaded into the extruder. I'm just going to let this kind of dangle off to the side. And I'm going to start the print, and we're going to see how this fused filament works its way through the extruder. Okay, so it looks like it's getting close to transitioning to the blue here. Probably hasn't quite hit the extruder yet, but just around the corner. Looks like the glue is not making it to the hot end at all. It's not getting past the extruder. I can just feel it clicking. That expanded portion of it just can't make it through. You can see down here. Just printing air right now. And you can see the joint pretty much got blocked there as it was trying to enter the extruder. Just wasn't ever going to make it through. The clips are just being printed in the air. Kind of see where it was trying to print at the end here. And there's just these little nubs that were kind of coming out. The last little bits making it out of the extruder, but obviously no glue ever made it to it. And I could feel it when I was holding it above there. You could just hear it clicking, or feel it clicking, trying to grab, but not being able to actually push it through. Well, that one was kind of a bust. Sorry about that, guys, but that's how we learn, right? This little guy on Amazon, 11 out of 10, would not recommend. I may try out one of the more crimp tool-esque, plier-esque versions of those guys. But I think the moral of the story here is that whatever tool it is that is joining these filaments together, it cannot increase the diameter of the filament in any way, at least not this significantly as this one did. Again, this is a 0.2 or a 2 millimeter PTFE inner diameter tube in here, and we're using 1.75 millimeter diameter filament. So that extra 0.25 millimeters is enough to throw the extruder off completely and not allow this filament to pass through it. So again, would not recommend this guy. I will probably try out some other methods, because I do want to be able to connect these remnants from one spool, an old spool, to a new spool. Also, I like the idea of being able to color mix and put some stripes randomly into some prints, right, without having to use the dual extruder printer, or stopping the print, changing out the filament, restarting the print, right? If I can make my own, if I don't necessarily care where the break is, right, or I can do it such that it's equal parts of filament, 2 meters of color blue, then white, then green, right? Each in those 2 meter increments. We could make some, striped things like that. And so, yeah, I am still interested in it, but again, this is not worth it. Definitely not worth the money, even though it was pretty cheap. Very much so not worth the wait it took to get here. Again, this took like a month. So I'm going to link this down in the description for you to avoid, unless you really want to try it and see if you have better luck. And if you do, please let me know down in the comments below. I think that's going to be it for this video. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.